Cisco and HashiCorp's Terraform series, Infrastructure as Code. We'll be focusing on day 0 and day 1 deployments. In this first video, we're going to create a user account that's going to allow us access to Firepower through a programmatic means. So let's go ahead and make sure that we are enabled for API access. So we'll go into configurations, we'll go to REST API preferences, and we'll make sure that we're enabled. Once that's done, let's go ahead and create the user. Again, this is a very simple video, but I want to walk through the steps with everyone from start to finish. So let's go ahead and create that user, give it a name. And let's go ahead here and I'll show you a configuration that we're going to get very familiar with. Go ahead and use that name. And this could be whatever you want. This happens to be the name I chose. Go ahead and put in a password. Go ahead and write that down if you want. It's an internal segmented lab and it's temporary. Go ahead and paste that in. We'll give it administrative access and we'll go ahead and save this out. Now, in my case, this is a lab environment and I'm going to use Terraform to tear up and tear down configurations within Firepower. We'll continue to build upon that during this series. So in this video, we're going to focus on a access policy creation with some pre-configuration, no rules, but some pre-configuration out of the gate. So we can see here we don't have a new policy. We have one called Lab 1 policy, but we're going to go ahead and create a new one. Before that, let's go ahead and look at some of the configuration that we have. So let's look at main.tf, and we can see that here's our provider, devnet/FMC. We'll look at that shortly and in follow-up videos. And then you see a provider which calls out a couple variables with username, password, and then we're pulling some data itself from Firepower. And then ultimately, we're going to go ahead and create the resource. So this is just going to set the access policy with the default action of block. And we're going to also log and send a Firepower Management Center. And then we've got some output, some visuals that we want to see in regards to what we've done. So let's go ahead and write that out, or typically we would write it out if we were building it from scratch. And let's go ahead and look at var.tf. These are the variables. So there's FMC username, password, host, and you can see the skip verify. So these are all set. We continue to reuse this in every deployment that we're going to leverage moving forward. And then let's go ahead and look at what those outcomes are in the tfvars file here. And you can see there's that username, the password, the actual Firepower Management Center's IP address that we're going to connect to, or domain. And that's it. That's all we have. And so we're going to go ahead and typically you're going to do an initialization your first time. This is going to go to the provider, pull in the plugins that are required. And then you can go ahead and run your plan and then ultimately apply. Now apply, and I'll triple check this, but I'm very certain plan is part of it. So you can see here, actually it is, right? The execution following plan. So it's part of the apply, and it gives you an opportunity to say yes or no, unless you're using the auto approve. So that's it. It ran faster than I could finish talking. And we can see here, we've got this Terraform access policy. We see it's modified by that Terraform API user. Let's jump in a little bit further and let's see if the things that we asked it to do actually have been done. So we didn't create any rules. We did set the default action to block. That looks good. And look at that, log at beginning and Firepower Management Center. So send those events to FMC. And that's it. It was as simple as that. But let's go ahead and check out a couple other things. Let's go to auditing. Let's see if all this was tracked. Be kind of messy if it wasn't. Let's have a peek here. So we can see that Terraform API user, and look at all this, the post, the get. We see the request has been succeeded. We see, again, some couple more, create access policy. Perfect. Completely logged. Let's go back to access control and let's see about tearing down some of this. Now, this could be pretty dangerous, but if this is, for example, and my use case is going to be all about building labs, tear up, tear down when needed. So we're going to use Terraform Destroy. It's going to tell you exactly what it's going to remove. It should remove everything that you've created, again, depending on how your deployment is. But the bottom line here is I want to quickly tear down this configuration. And think about AWS or GCP or Azure, standing up or building and extending infrastructure as needed. And you can see it's done. It's gone. Let's go ahead and jump to auditing. And we can see that, all the information around what just took place is actually captured as well. And we can see here's that delete action that we're using. And then finally, a delete policy, Terraform access policy was logged. IP address it was also included. And that's it. That's the basis. So we're going to build upon this and move forward.